Generational gaps are a phenomenon that has been occurring throughout history. From the gap between the rock and roll fans of the mid-20th century and their parents, to the gap between the peace-loving anti-war generation and the generation that held power during the 70s, every new generation experiences some sort of disconnect between them and those who came before them. None, however, are quite as massive as the gap caused by the information age. Generation Z, or those born from the late 90s to late 2000s, are the first generation to spend their entire upbringing with easy access to the internet, and as such, have developed wildly different sensibilities when compared to every generation before them. Gen Z is entering adulthood in a time when many opportunities afforded to those who came before them are less attainable or simply no longer available. This leaves this generation with little else to turn to other than apathy and desperation masked under a humorous exterior. However, with a post-ironic sense of humor, extremely high rates of mental illness, and sensibilities incomprehensible by many of those older than them, Gen Z is often left feeling a communication barrier between themselves and others, and under or misrepresented, but not in a specific area of the internet. Meet Riamu Yumemi, a depressed idol looking to claw her way out of her mundane school life and a perfect caricature of all that seems to mean Gen Z nowadays. Sorry, this is Riamu Yumemi. Riamu is, in fact, a virtual idol from a somewhat niche franchise known as Idolmaster. In the series, she's depicted as an unconfident, neurotic, and lonely character who simply wants to become an idol but is unsure if she can make it or not. Riamu's background and character holds many references to Japanese internet subcultures, including her usage of various slang terminology, and her general attitude and aesthetic pulling from the youth subculture of menhera. Menhera is a Japanese subculture, with the name being an abbreviation of the term mental health, which started on the image board site 2chan due to many users in the early 2000s asking for a board dedicated to mental health discussion. On this board, many posted their art that was drawn as an emotional outlet for their struggles with mental illness, and over time, the menhera board developed a certain aesthetic and culture, often taking tropes from the pastel goth Lolita style that some would call a yume kawaii style into a yami kawaii style, subverting the ideas usually conveyed by the yume kawaii style, often using imagery of medical equipment, subtle bondage gear, and clothes that portray translucency or transparency of the skin to make the wearer look fragile or in need of care. We can see this in Riamu with her pill earrings, choker necklace, and her outfits in the game, with her main baggy t-shirt being a bright pastel design of a ribcage, and her idol outfit being of a goth Lolita fashion, but with the various aspects of yami kawaii substituted in. Much of the point of menhera art involves itself in contradiction, with cute designs and bright colors, but depicting scenes of mental struggle or even self-harm. This design is also present in Riamu, but the aspect of contradiction in itself is not lost either, as Riamu is often shown to be both of low self-esteem but also wants to be an idol, adored by all, along with the seeming contradiction of appearing cute but mentally unwell or susceptible to harm. This, however, is the point of the menhera movement, that despite outward appearances, someone may be struggling on the inside. One could presume that a large part of the Western world's Gen Z would deeply resonate with the menhera subculture, with an overlap in that both present a positive outside appearance, with many having a negative interior. Upon her debut in game, Riamu was very popular, ranking 3rd overall in the yearly fan vote held after her release, but that was but a hint of what was to come. Over the years, Riamu has spread all over the internet, far outside of the regular circles that any Idolmaster characters would usually reach. One could presume that her menhera anti-idol personality is what allowed her to reach the hearts of those who didn't even know what Idolmaster was. Along with her infectiously colorful design and wider range of expression due to her menhera influence, she was appealing for various artists on Twitter to draw. Even well after the initial spike in popularity upon her release, Riamu has maintained her relevance online among those who resonate with what she personifies. The things which Riamu sees as flaws and obstacles in her path to becoming a successful idol are in fact the thing that sets her apart from so much of the other idol characters and links her so closely to the Western Gen Z and allowed her to become a celebrity idol, even if only in her own small corner of the internet that helped form the generation who loves her so. So, that was my first attempt at a YouTube video essay. This was a bit of a shorter one because I wanted to dip my toes into the water. If you enjoyed it and would like to see more like this, feel free to leave a like and subscribe so you won't miss my next hyperfixation of the week.